Hello and welcome back, future scientists. I'm Mr. K with Mississippi Public Broadcasting, and we're going to start a new unit today talking about Darwin. Now, we've already discussed evolution in a little bit of detail, so I wanted to talk about the contributions that Darwin made to the theories of evolution and all the steps along the way to get to where we are today. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling and see what we're talking about today. So I'm just going to introduce some basic stuff, kind of tell you who Darwin was and what his theory of evolution is really telling us. Okay, so Darwin played a great role and made a lot of contributions to the theory of evolution. So what is evolution anyway? Well, simply put, evolution is change over time. That's all you need to know. Evolution is change over time. Instead of change at the individual level, though, evolution is change at the population level. A population is a group of the same species. So instead of one human, it might be all the humans living in a certain area. Or instead of one lion, it's all the lions in a pride of lions. So a population is a group of animals that are all the same. And evolution is working on a large scale over a long period of time. Evolution is not something that we usually see in one lifetime. It's over many generations that we'll start to see a population of animals change. So that's all that evolution is. It's change over time. And evolution can be controversial, and so just a little disclaimer I like to give people is that I want to encourage you to keep an open mind. When talking about evolution or other scientific ideas, I like to encourage people and my students to try to keep an open mind. I'm asking that you follow along and consider all the evidence that supports this theory of evolution. Once we have finished discussing it, feel free to disregard any information that you don't believe in. We need this information in your brain, not necessarily in your heart. So you have to know all the facts, but you don't have to believe in it. In America, you can believe anything you want, but you will need to know this information when you take the state test. So follow along with me. I'll give my best shot at explaining the theory of evolution. If you think it makes sense and that everything's tracking, great, you can keep believing in it. If after we've talked about everything and we've talked about all the evidence that supports this theory, if it doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. You don't have to believe in it. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling on this, shall we? So let's talk about Darwin's theory of evolution. Many philosophers, scientists, and academics claim that Charles Darwin's idea of evolution by natural selection is the greatest idea ever had. Charles Darwin studied finches on the Galapagos Island. He saw the island chain was filled with finches, but they all had slightly different beak shapes. And that really made Darwin curious about why that was happening. Why do all these finches look alike, but their beaks are slightly different shapes? Let's talk about that in a little bit of detail here. So Darwin was known for studying finches on the Galapagos Islands. When finches came to the Galapagos Islands, they had a beak that was best suited for the diet that they had at that time. As they moved to the various islands, their beaks slowly started taking on different shapes. The different islands had different food available for the finches. Some islands had a lot of insects, some islands had a lot of nuts and seeds. And over time, the finches who had the beaks best suited for those diets did the best. Over time, those beak shapes were selected for. So in this picture over here, you can see what's going on. We have this ancestral finch, right? This is an old finch. It was maybe the first group of finches that made it to the Galapagos Islands. Over time, what happened is the Galapagos Islands is an island chain. So they would fly from one island to the next, and kind of just start living on all these different smaller islands. Well, each island had different food available for the finches. And what was happening is that when Darwin got there, he noticed that all the finches looked alike, but the beaks had different shapes. Some beaks were very narrow and sharp, some beaks were very big, some beaks were small and almost needle-like. And what he saw is that the finches with these beaks were very good at eating their diet. You can see up here, this one was the insect eating. At the top there is the insect eating finch. It had a needle-like beak, and it was very good at stabbing these insects and picking them up off the ground. That one in the middle had a woodpecker-like beak. It was very good at getting into the tree and finding the insects that were living there. And then at the bottom, those were very big beaks, and they were good at cracking those seeds and cracking the nuts. And so what happened here is that depending on what food was available for the finches, over time the populations of finches got better at eating those types of diets because their beaks were slowly evolving to get better at that. And we're going to kind of talk about how that happens, okay? So what I really need you to know from this slide is that Darwin went to the Galapagos Islands and he was studying finches, okay? So why is this happening? Well, when he were studying all of these different finches, he was able to see that they were similar, but the beaks were perfectly suited for their diets. And Darwin was curious, why is this happening? Well, how were these beaks so perfectly shaped for the food that they were eating? This question played a key role in Darwin's development of natural selections. The beaks of the finches are one of the clearest examples of adaptive radiation in the world. And I wanted to talk about that term a little bit, adaptive radiation. What's going on here is that we started with one finch, but over time that one finch evolved into several different types of finches. And all the different types of finches had these different beaks. This is a type of evolution that you can see, where one organism will evolve and start to spread into these different types of organisms. So we started with one finch, but over time, through natural selection and evolution, we ended up with a lot of different finches living on these Galapagos Islands, and they all had different diets, and they all had beaks that were very suited for the diets that they were eating. Y'all, thank you so much for following along with me today. I'm Mr. K. Your teacher has some more work for you to do, so make sure to give that your best effort, and I hope everybody has a great day.